Hello everyone, my name is Megan Wood. I'm the primary music CTL, and today we are going to do a virtual unit preview for Unit 3. So we're going to walk through all the boxes and I'm just going to explain what I have down, and hopefully this helps you out. If you have any questions at any time, please feel free to jot them down and email me at mewood@uplifteducation.org. So we're going to start over on the right with the info box. That is where you're going to put the class and the grade, the age group, the school, the title, which would be music, the teacher, the date, proposed duration, which would be 50 minutes or 45 minutes, whatever you have time length for your class period, and your number of hours over the number of weeks. So most of our units are 6 weeks long, so you would basically put what you're seeing for that time. Now we're going to go over to box 1. Box 1 is the main box. So box 1 is about what is the purpose. So that's where you have your transdisciplinary theme and your central idea. The transdisciplinary themes, there are 6 of them, and each grade level will hit each one every year. It's just their focus will change. So this one for 4th grade is how we express ourselves, and an inquiry into the ways which we discover and express ideas, feelings, nature, culture, beliefs, and values, the ways in which we reflect on, extend, and enjoy our creativity and our appreciation. So when we're taking a look at this, we're going to look at the focus, and the focus is going to be the bolded words. Now the central idea will change from time to time. The transdisciplinary theme does not change. The central idea may change. So the central idea for 4th grade is people can create or manipulate messages to target specific audiences. This actually ties in with music very well. And for the music specific tie-in, I said how composers and movie/commercial directors use different texture styles and genres to influence and target specific audiences. So we're going to take a look at Box 1B. Box 1B is your summative assessment. Here, this is your big project that goes back and assesses your idea of the transdisciplinary theme and the central ideas. So how are you going to assess that the scholars really understood your central idea? Which then does also tie into the transdisciplinary theme. So what I have here is scholars will create a commercial for a product/service and pick the music to influence their targeted audience. So points I have them that to think about are instrument, genres, lyrics, tone, mood, emotions, product, and their targeted audience they're going to reach. So there would be 2 different kind of rubrics that you would place in this box depending on what you're going to pick. So one rubric is how you're going to assess the scholars, and then the other rubric would be for the scholars themselves. Next is box 2, and box 2 actually has about 3 different things in this box. So your first item would be your key concepts and your related concepts. These are already kind of fixed, so you don't have to pick every single one of them. You just want to pick which ones that you have a genuine connection for. So the key concepts I picked here were function, how commercials are using music, the function of music in commercials, and then the reflection of this. What are our thoughts about this? Is it working? Is it not working? Does it make you want to buy the product? Your related concepts here, media, advertising, propaganda, interpretation. What role does this play in product consumption? After your key concepts and related concepts, it then moves down to your lines of inquiry. And what lines of inquiry will define the scope of the inquiry into the central idea? So this is relating back to our central idea, and you don't have to pick all of them. I would just pick the ones that you can connect to again. And the 2 I chose were how images, text, and music are used to influence behavior or of target audiences, and that really hooks right into ours as well. How do different textures play a role, and how people respond to messages? How products would products be successful without the advertising? So that's my tie into that. Now we're going to take a look over onto the right and what teacher questions/provocations will drive these inquiries. So basically, the provocation is your giant hook into the unit. And the one that I picked here was an Eggo commercial. And it was, everyone was fighting over the Eggo. And I had some questions underneath. And do you want to buy the product? Do you even like the product? So that would be a good question. Often the way commercials are done makes you want the product, even though you might not like the product. It makes you want to go out and buy the product. So this whole unit is having scholars pinpoint how this happens and how it's successful. How does the commercial make you feel? What different music would different music change your perspective? What targeted audiences does this reach? And do we feel the same when listening without sound? So what I do for this section is I often play the commercial without the music first, and then I add the music. So that's something you can do throughout and test scholars with to see if they feel the same. We're going to move on to boxes 3 and 4. Boxes 3 and 4 can be a little bit confusing, but when you break them down, they're not too bad. So box 3 has a couple of sections in it. So the first part of box 3 is how you're going to assess their prior knowledge. So here I have scholars write down thoughts on how companies use music to influence consumers. Share it after, see how the scholars are and where you need to go from there. After, you're going to, what are the possible ways of assessing student learning in the context of the lines of inquiry? So we're going to kind of jump a little bit back to box 2, and then what evidence will we look for? So the evidence is very important here. You want to say, I know the scholars understand the lines of inquiry because of blank, blank, blank. Here I have a couple of examples. Scholars analyze the difference between commercials and how they feel affect consumers at the different stages of life. So what might work for a young child might be different for an adult and vice versa. Another example, scholars explain how different genres and textures make them feel and how everyone's perspective could be different. So now we're going to move on to box 4. So box 4, again, has a couple different sections. In box 4, what learning experience are you going to do to encourage the students to engage with the inquiries and address the driving questions? So a couple of activities I have picked here is scholars will describe the impact of different musical textures. Scholars create a list of emotions they feel from listening to different genres. And scholars relate to how people are influenced by music. Next below are what opportunities will occur for transdisciplinary skills development and for the development of the attributes of the learner profile. So these are the ones that you're going to pick. And my transdisciplinary skills, I picked thinking and communication skills. Learner profile, I picked reflective and thinkers, and attitudes for I picked creativity and appreciation. We're going to move on to box 5, and box 5 is basically what resources that you need to be gathered, that you're going to gather that are going to help you. So I have a list of textures scholars can pick from. I have different vocal types, sound clips of different keyboards, vocal, instrumental ensembles, and orchestral works. So different snippets of music that the scholars can use. Clips of commercials, magazine ads. You could even have scholars bring in products, or you could bring in products yourself just to show them as an example. And then below it says, how will the classroom environment, local environment, and our community be used to facilitate the inquiry? So here I have scholars will choose the best commercial from the class and will air it on our school's new video. After, the school will vote on their favorite commercial. There should be 6 total. It depends on how many sections you have. We have a little news network that we have twice a week. And I was going to have the scholars actually put the commercial on there and have the whole school vote for the best commercial. So we'll see how that goes. So moving on to boxes 6, 7, and 8 and 9. So these boxes are the reflecting. So box 6 is to what extent did we achieve our purpose? So how successful were you? And these aren't boxes that you need to really necessarily fill. I want you to fill these boxes with thought versus just trying to fill them. So I want you to really reflect on this. And if something didn't go well, this is your time to say, hey, I wish I would have done this in the future. So when you look at this down the road and you want to repeat this unit, you'll definitely take your reflections from these boxes and be able to revamp the unit to work best for yourself and for scholars. So a couple of the questions that are here: assess the outcome of the inquiry of providing evidence of students' understanding of the central idea. So a lot of these boxes are going to ask you to provide evidence of the scholar's understanding of the central idea, transdisciplinary theme, lines of inquiry. How could you prove on the assessment task so that you would have a more accurate picture of each student's understanding of the central idea? What was the evidence that connections were made between the central idea and the transdisciplinary theme? That one can take some thought, and that's one, if you don't do very well, that's a spot to say, hey, I wish I would have done better here, and I think I could do this next time. Box 7 is to what extent did we include the elements of the PYP? So again, we're going back to the learning experiences, transdisciplinary skills, the attributes, the learner profiles, and our attitudes. Boxes 8 and 9. Box 8 is really about the student-initiated activities that arose from learning, the questions that they had, and also what kind of actions that arose. Did they go home? Did they ask their parents about something, maybe about the commercial? Did they come back? Did they do a little project on their own? This is the box where you would write all of that down. And then box 9 is my favorite box. That's your teacher's notes, and that's for you to be honest and to go ahead and fill that out. It's best to fill that out as you go along through the unit. Each lesson I would put a little bit of a snippet, a paragraph in there. So at the very end you can go back and you can definitely reflect even more deeply on the project and the unit and how everything went. Well, I hope this was helpful, and again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out at mewood@uplifteducation.org.